Where are we? We are in a world which is in a state of flux, and we ourselves are in a state of flux. As we know, every molecule in your body changes over more or less 7 years, so that you are quite literally not physically the same person as you were a decade ago. And I assume, I'm not a physiologist at all, but I assume that that includes brain cells, that they're being renewed and restored, and that nevertheless they have some sort of memory, even though, you're right, the more we know about memory, the more we realize how unreliable it can be, but that there is continuity such that if that continuity is broken by, say, a terrible accident of another sort which results in somebody having, as we say, a different personality, then there is a real shockwave goes through the community of other lives that that person then touches or is touched by, where they don't know who this is anymore. And when somebody has had a really serious illness, that is a problem. And I think one of the reasons we find dementia so difficult to deal with in families and so on is because this doesn't seem to be the same person that we had known and loved. And it seems to me that's part of the brokenness of the world, to which the only answer, of course, is more generous love, more ability to go out to meet this person where they now are and to assure them of safety and love and so on. Though that's tough. But I think that is part of some of the most alive people I have ever known are people who, in that sense, make sure they are going out and living for others and looking out for others, and who, as a result, seem to grow in themselves precisely because they're not taking themselves, in a selfish sense, seriously.
I take it that the part of the no-self view in Buddhism is very similar, right? That this kind of notion that we have of a self that's completely separate from others and so forth and so on is an illusion, that there is a self that abides through time, that you are exactly, in some interesting sense, exactly the same person that came out of your mother's womb and so forth and so on. I think we have a lot of mistaken ideas about that. And one of the things that I think we can do is, if we think really seriously about it, I think we realize that not only is that an illusion, but that also shows the interconnectedness with other people and the world around us in a way that we like to kid ourselves. This is just me, this is this, that, and the other, but everything that you do potentially affects other creatures, other fellow beings, and so on.
And I think at this point there is a Christian critique of the modernist idea of the self. You know, the modernist idea is, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul, I am who I am, and I'm just coming through and doing my thing and get out of my way. That kind of modernist arrogance, which I think goes back particularly to certain 18th century European attitudes, but is very prevalent still in some quarters. Postmodernity responds to that by saying that the self is just a mass of shifting signifiers and different narratives that swirl to and fro, and that we actually reinvent ourselves the whole time. And the Christian response to both of those, I think, would be, in traditional language and practice, to talk about baptism, that something happens at the moment of initiation, however you do that and so on, in which, at least from a theological theory, you actually cease to be as your primary identity, the person that you were, and become a new person in some sense or other, a person in Christ, a member of the Messiah's family, a member of this new, large, multi-ethnic, very odd-shaped family, and that is now your primary identity, that you are, that the self you now are is now one who is formed and reformed within that new world. It's about new creation, ultimately, and finding of the self within the new creation, which nevertheless enables the self as it's always been since it was conceived in its mother's womb, to grow and become more fully the human being that it was designed to be. But obviously we're moving on there into quite other areas.